Food is foundational to culture. It's how we express emotion, how we take care of ourselves, how we show what we can't say, and it's in the background of every story, even the science fiction ones. I'm sci fi writer Casey Hudson, and these are the essentials for creating a realistic and unique sci fi cuisine. The baseline for most cuisine is who's eating the food and where they live. Let's look at human diets for a second. Humans, as a species, are not actually great at digesting raw meats, not as great as, say, leopards. Our digestive systems can't access as many of the nutrients, and we're susceptible to foodborne illness. Even amongst humans, there are differences in digestion abilities. Some people have difficulty digesting beans, onions, dairy. Food allergies, too, are pretty common, so world building cuisine requires that you first look at what your sci fi species is capable of eating. The next step is to consider location. Looking again at earthly behavior, cuisine from a coastal area is likely to be seafood forward, but desert cuisine may include agave syrup or tequila. Yeah, your sci fi world may have characters who can access foods not native to an area, but remember, there was a time before. A time when that culture didn't trade with other planets, didn't trade with other cultures, couldn't eat anything beyond what they could farm or hunt themselves. And that's the time when your sci fi cultures would have created their old world recipes, the recipes that are the basis for modern day cuisine. So, begin with that foundation. Then, start breaking this idea down by food types. Take meat, for instance. Are there any animals your sci fi culture considers appropriate for eating, as opposed to furry friends or sacred species? Are they land based, flying life forms, water animals? Have you considered insects, fish, or any mythical life forms? And to get from animal to meat, how are they acquired? Are they farmed, hunted, scavenged? You don't have to record every detail, but the answers to these questions are the basis of your sci fi food's uniqueness. Here's what I mean. This is Dudon from my Drifting Amalgams universe. Dudon's parents are two different species, one bat like, one crow like. Her Tadari Bray heritage means she can easily digest flying insects. Moths, flying ants, beetles, and mayflies are the baseline for this species. And remembering that she's also Corvicrux, I've added small rodents, seeds, nuts, and berries to her baseline. Altogether, Dudon is omnivorous due to her hybridized digestive system. She has easy access to the commercialized insect farms of her Tadari Bray kin, and her Corvicrux family shares farm produce and ranched rodents from their planet. The cuisine she enjoys includes a mix of all these foods which she can both digest and procure. Now that we know what Dudon can eat, what about what she wants to eat? Flavor profiles add character when world building cuisine. This is true within the world building experience itself, but it can also underlie deeper meaning inside a narrative. Let's look again at Dudon, but this time we'll explore how flavor illuminates her character within a scene. Dudon casually flew to her food replicator and requested fancy food. When the replicator beeped, she pulled out the first item before keying in a new round of recipe specifications. The replicator accepted the food order and hummed in preparation. The inspector scanned the assortment of readied food baskets before asking, "No boiled cricket?" Oh. Dudon looked at the abundance of seasoned insects and spiced fruits and realized she could have planned a simpler meal. This is from an early draft I wrote, before layering in significant world building elements. The inspector's request for boiled cricket is meant to highlight the two characters' fundamental differences. Though Dudon shares a basic love of insects with her Tadari Bray dinner guest, her omnivorous diet doesn't appeal to the inspector's more traditional sensibilities. Notice, too, that the food mentions are so general they almost fade into the background. Fancy food, the first item, recipe specifications. World building cuisine with specific flavor elements will allow me to be more specific and elevate this scene to something more meaningful. So, how would I world build cuisine to enrich this scene? Let's reflect on evolution for a moment. The flavors a species can taste are often related to survival. An advanced sense of bitterness may mean a heightened ability to identify poisons. Being attuned to variances in sweetness may help fruit eaters detect edibility. So think about how your sci-fi environment helps shape the species. To simplify the process, it's easiest to think in terms of some basic flavor factors. Humans, for example, perceive sour, bitter, savory, floral, sweet, earthy. Think of any flavor you can put a name to. And if you can tie those flavors to something deeper about your sci fi species, you have a viable basis for flavors they enjoy. You can complete this exercise even if your species can't taste in the same way humans perceive flavor. Consider world building flavor factors around other attributes. Perhaps your sci fi species consumes metal, so they taste differences in the level of their food's magnetism. Or, if the sun is a primary source of nutrients, they can differentiate between red and yellow or UV levels. Whatever makes sense for the baseline foods you've established is worth exploring. And just like the baseline foods, you'll want to break these ideas down. Differentiate which foods taste like what. For the staples, what flavors are common to the foods used as main ingredients? Which of these flavors is appealing? Consider sweet, sour, bitter, savory, and salty. And if you're exploring something other than human standard flavors, identify those factors. Let's examine Dudon's preferences. Dudon's Corvicrux ancestors lived on a planet where several edible and inedible berries looked very similar. So they developed a sharpened sense of sweetness. On her modern day palate, this carryover has manifested as a love for several similar but distinct fruits and nectars. She enjoys cuisine infused with these sweet, fruity notes. Also, she rather uncommonly enjoys citrusy insects, especially in her desserts. Having spent much time in a region where ants were the only available protein source, she developed a love for the insect's acidic taste, and a fondness for the ant-topped desserts found in that region. These preferences represent a diversity of flavors her dinner guest is uncomfortable with. So, let's look at that scene again. Dudon casually flew to her food replicator and requested roasted crickets in a simmering pomegranate sauce. When the replicator beeped, she pulled out the tangy stew before keying in a new round of recipe specifications. Fried beetle poppers, finished with the citrusy ant powder, and currant juice. The replicator accepted the order and hummed in preparation. The inspector scanned the assortment of readied food baskets before asking, "No boiled crickets?" "Oh." Dudon looked at the abundance of seasoned insects and spiced fruits and realized she could have planned a simpler meal. Still a rough draft, this scene does a much better job of highlighting Dudon's uniqueness compared to the inspector's traditional food preferences. I won't get into the traditional Tadari Braid diet here, but if you're interested, I'll break it down in my upcoming video on world-building food from an insect-based diet. Be sure to subscribe so you can catch that video when it drops. While baseline foods and flavors can get you pretty far when world-building cuisine, you can level up your fictional recipes by next focusing on preparation. This aspect is all about presentation, texture, health and safety, and preservation of food. Raw or baked, crunchy or chewy, washed or boiled, canned or frozen. These decisions lead to a more holistic cuisine within a sci-fi world, and they're ones you'll definitely want to consider if food is at the forefront of your narrative. For an added level of customization, you'll need to envision several recipes and even think about what special occasions merit the consumption of certain foods. All of that is a bit advanced for a video on the essentials, though. If you want to get started on world-building cuisine within these subtopics, I have created a 20-question world-building worksheet that's live on my Patreon. So head over to patreon.com/worldworkings to check it out. Or you can just wait until I cover the rest of this topic in a future video. Until next time, stay inspired.